There is a kind of ancient witchcraft belief that the villagers will lay the coffins on the trees one by one after the death of the people. But as time goes by, the things inside will be contaminated by evil things, or they will often take the initiative to go out to look for food. And the first day that Away just got his teacher's license, he happened to be assigned to the village. What surprised the couple was that as they were on their way to the production team, a red light suddenly flashed through the window, which shocked Xiaomei. Seeing a few people in the car did not notice the abnormality. Xiaomei thought it was a hallucination of her own fatigue, but when she looked at her husband with her eyes closed, a head flashed through her eyes again. For many years, the moon gold cloth strip has also been completely restored at this moment. In his heart, he is constantly comforting himself that everything just now must be a hallucination. But then the next second the red light suddenly appeared again. And just as he turned his eyes away from the window, he didn't expect the head to reappear again. Looking at the head that disappeared again, Xiaomei was finally sure that what she had just seen was true, so she rushed to wake up her husband on the side. But what is unthinkable is that he was the only one in the whole car who saw the head, perhaps because he was too nervous. Xiaomei suddenly felt dizzy for a while, but he had to stop the driver and got out of the car and vomited, looking at his wife so uncomfortable. In this moment, the strange thing happened again. A strange sound suddenly came from the bushes on one side. The two of them were in a hurry to call their companions to check, but in less than a second, a coffin suddenly appeared in front of them, and a few people immediately ran away. But at this point, the car was like a moth that could not be started, and the coffin had hit it hard. The driver immediately asked Wei whether he had eggs or glutinous rice. After Wei heard it, he immediately took out a packet of tea eggs from his pocket. But the strange thing was that after they threw the food out, the car started up in an instant. However, shortly after a few people left, the coffin automatically opened a gap and a ghost took the food from inside. The next day, according to the production team's secretary, he came with his companions, and a few people simply said a few words and immediately took a small boat to the village of Wei. However, when they just arrived in the village, the secretary pointed to the direction of the school with his hand and then left the scene with his eyes wide open. The couple were very confused about this, but they didn't think much of it. But when the two of them passed a forest, they suddenly found countless flying coffins hanging on the tree. Such a haunted scene made them feel uneasy in their hearts. Fortunately, after a round of running, they finally arrived at the school. The principal was enthusiastic and took two people to visit the allocated dormitory and looked at the dilapidated toilet in front of him. The principal also said he was very sorry, because not long ago, the village had just been flooded, not only drowned a large number of villagers, but also severely damaged the power facilities here, which made the village, which was not rich, now even worse. However, when a few people had dinner at night, the principal suddenly became very strange because his first bite would never eat first. Instead, he grabbed a little bit with his hand and threw it straight out of the way to thank the nature for their testimony. Otherwise, it was likely to be a bad omen. This move also reminds Away of the day that a few pieces of cabbage. A bad feeling suddenly floated in my heart. As expected, shortly after leaving the school, Xiaomei, who was washing the kitchen, encountered a strange thing. A super big straw was rolling towards her. After Xiaomei picked it up, there was an old man outside the window who was staring at himself. In other words, such a wonderful plot must have a lot of good equipment. Recently, I bought a Talina for $9.90 on Douyin, and then spent $8.80 on melon seeds. Finally, I say one more thing. Except for the mobile phone, everything can be collected. In the middle of the night, Away was suddenly woken up by the strange sound outside the window. However, when he ran forward to check, a ghost shadow suddenly flashed in front of him. Away didn't see what it was at all. Under the drive of curiosity, he slowly walked out of the room with the oil lamp. But the next second, there was a loud knock outside the room. When he opened the door, an old man suddenly appeared at the door, and then slowly approached Xiaomei without hesitation. He used his old arm to touch the other person's stomach. In the water, he kept reciting a strange spell. When they saw each other, their voices were immediately mentioned in their hearts. But fortunately, after the other person finished reciting the spell, he left the room without saying a word. The next morning, Away told the principal about what happened last night. The other person said that the old man's name was Tanbai, a shaman who was far away from the village, but since his child disappeared for no reason, his behavior became more and more strange. But even so, Tanbai did not do anything harmful to the world. Then he brought 2 people to the school, but since the flood, there are only 7 students in the whole school. But fortunately, the atmosphere of the children's study is quite good, but what Xiaomei did not expect was that he just wrote his name on the blackboard and turned around for a moment. I found that there were only 3 people in the classroom, but now they were full of students and they kept saying their names in their mouths. Fortunately, in the end, the students under the stage woke him up from his hallucinations. When he woke up, he saw that there were still 3 students in front of him, and Xiaomei's heart was not in a trance. Because since they came to the village, the strange things have never been cut off. From the moment they set off, they saw the floating head, countless hanging coffins in the woods to the principal's first mouth to advance fans. All signs show that this place seems not simple as expected. The next second a child suddenly appeared. "What are you doing?" After going back, Xiaomei immediately told her husband about the class, but in the eyes of Wei, it is very likely that the wife was too tired to cause hallucinations. However, what he didn't know was that Xiaomei found a strange figure after the curtain when he was just walking in front of him. But after he pulled it away, he found that the window was already closed and there was no one at all. The next day, when Xiaomei was gossiping with her classmates, the old man was still standing not far from them. But then there was a scream in the classroom. After a few people came to the principal, they found that a student was being forced to pull a car by some force. As the head of the class, Away was naturally on the front line, but when he just put his head on the ceiling, an inexplicable smell came to the surface. And just that girl was long gone, and then the next second. Then the next classroom came to Xiaomei's scream, and it turned out that the student had appeared in Xiaomei's body and pointed at her stomach. Step by step, but then the 2 fell to the ground as if they had lost their souls. However, at night, Away was in the room when the oil lamp was placed. A gust of wind suddenly blew open the closed window. Xiaomei wanted to go up and look at the window, but she didn't think of the next second. The next morning, his colleagues visited Xiaomei, and Away incidentally said what happened to his wife last night. I never thought that the other party had actually heard of this kind of flying head in the local. People usually call this kind of monster as a half-life ghost, and is also a very ominous existence. And then he took the 2 of them to the secretary's house, because there was a well-known Orthodox witch Mia. The other party just gently held Xiaomei's palm, and immediately said the real reason why he was pretending to be a ghost. However, when the villagers learned that Xiaomei was pregnant, they not only did not celebrate, but even showed a disgusted expression on their faces because of a prophecy that has been circulating in the local area. As long as there are foreign pregnant women entering the village, he will help the evil man become a real devil. From a woman across the island to your arrival. But don't be afraid. It's been a long wait. He took out a few pieces of grapefruit leaves from his bag and then gave them to the secretary so that he could soak them in salt water for a week. But I didn't expect Xiaomei to lose consciousness when she heard this and fainted and kept saying the word. As the sky outside the house gradually darkened, Xiaomei seemed to be possessed by the devil and jumped off the boat. But fortunately, at this moment, his power was not strong and everyone soon put it together. After Mia read out the curse, Xiaomei immediately sent out a painful roar. In order to prevent the devil from continuing to harm people, the rest of the villagers immediately came to the Tanbai home with torches. As a result, they found that there were already empty people here, and Ame, who was worried about her son's accident, was also packing up and planning to escape from this place overnight. But at the same time, Amin told him that the boatmen here never set sail at night. If you want to leave, you can only wait until tomorrow morning in order to let the 2 of them spend the night safely. Amin set up a barrier around his house to prevent the devil, because the half-living ghost killed his wife many years ago and left a strand of hair on the scene. So from then on, Amin studied a lot of ways to deal with a half-living ghost through self-study. Sure enough, not long after he left the barrier, Away's family was hit by a half-living ghost attack. The other party saw that he could not rush into the house and suddenly made a loud cry. However, on the morning of the second day, something unexpected happened. A fire broke out at the docks of the island and just burned the only traffic tool. Looking at the road back and forth from the village, Away could do nothing but grumble. But at this time, the villagers fell to the ground and suffered, as if they were controlled by some mysterious thing. As soon as Away found out, his wife disappeared in the midst of the crowd, so he immediately ran back to the school to look for her, but he found nothing. When Away was very regretful for his son, the girl who had been dragged to the roof suddenly appeared and pointed at the grass on one side with her hand. After Away passed by, he really found his wife's scarf inside and a pair of men's bracelets, which looked so familiar. This is Mr. Sadist's house, isn't it? I think so. Yes. Where is Mr. Sadist's house? Where is it? It's around the house. Then he came to the secretary's house. Where are you hiding my wife? You don't wait for me. You don't like my wife. You don't talk to me. You don't talk to me. But the other party said that all of this was because of him and Xiao Mei, and he didn't want them to stay here from the beginning. In the end, the two of them also started a fight. Fortunately, in the end, the shaman and the principal arrived in time. When everyone complained that Away was too impulsive, he immediately took out the scissor bracelet from the bag. But what is unexpected is that the secretary's bracelet has been kept at home and has not been lost at all. That night, under the guidance of Mia, the crowd soon found Xiao Mei unconscious under an old tree. In order to wake up his wife as soon as possible, Away had to listen to Mia's advice and let her stay in the room for treatment. The others immediately rode 3 wheels to Tanbai's house. But when they found Tanbai and his wife ready to fight, a formless force set them in place. At this time, his husband told a few people that they had actually been deceived. Tanbai had actually been protecting Xiao Mei, and the real person who wanted to hurt him was Ashimiya. Then Tanbai immediately split his head and body and flew to Away to tell him, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. As soon as the sound of the words fell, a picture of his wife appeared in his mind. At this time, Mia was trying to take out the child in Xiao Mei's belly, but he did not expect that Tanbai had set up a barrier in Xiao Mei's belly the first time they met. But soon he used his own navigation to break it instantly. After realizing that the situation was not right, a huge skull rushed to Mia immediately. Away's men followed suit, but when they got to the scene, the wooden house was already on fire. Away thought he was one step behind, but he did not know that Xiao Mei had run out before. Then he found Mia's body according to Tanbai's instructions and threw the flag into the sea of fire. He felt that Mia, whose body was burned, rushed home immediately. But in the middle of it, because of the lack of force, he fell down and looked at Mia, who was dying, and Away did not hesitate to pick up the stone on the ground and smash his heart. At the end of the story, in order to repay everyone's life-saving grace, Away decided to stay with Xiao Mei and continue to teach. At this time, the principal suddenly appeared and told the two that the secretary was found dead at home early in the morning. Some people look optimistic on the surface, but they are very kind on the inside. With his own micro-force has been guarding his own villagers. The whole movie is based on the famous ghost story of Southeast Asia and the real change of its local folk elements to create a unique horror atmosphere. It was also well received by a large number of fans and users, but the depth and originality still need to be improved. The motive of the villains was only left on the surface. Villagers are too flat and weak in depth, lacking the social level of Lin Mei. Especially the last 2 flying heads fighting effects are even more unheard of. Overall, if you like to study the ghost culture of Southeast Asia, you can try it. But if you prefer psychological horror or depth of narrative, please be careful.